Wine, beer, and whiskey, three beloved drinks enjoyed by millions around the world. Each of these drinks has a rich history and a fascinating process behind their creation. Whether it's the crisp, refreshing taste of wine, the hoppy, flavorful beer, or the smooth warmth of whiskey, each of these beverages offers a unique experience. But how are they made? What steps do they go through before they reach your glass? Let's take a closer look at the processes behind wine, beer, and whiskey. Wine, one of the oldest alcoholic beverages, is made primarily from grapes. Its origins date back thousands of years, with evidence of wine production found in ancient civilizations. The process of making wine starts in the vineyard where the grapes are grown. The specific type of grape used plays a crucial role in determining the final flavor of the wine. Grapes that thrive in particular climates and soils are selected for wine production. For example, red wines often come from grapes that grow in warmer climates, while white wines are typically made from grapes grown in cooler regions. The first step in making wine is the harvest. Once the grapes have ripened, they are carefully picked from the vines. Timing is crucial. If the grapes are harvested too early or too late, it can affect the taste of the wine. Some vineyards use machines to harvest the grapes, while others prefer to pick them by hand. Hand-picking ensures that only the best grapes are selected and avoids damage to the fruit. After the grapes are harvested, they are transported to the winery where the real magic begins. Once the grapes arrive at the winery, they are crushed to release their juice. In ancient times, this was done by stomping on the grapes with feet, but today, modern machinery is used. After the grapes are crushed, they are pressed to separate the juice from the skins and seeds. For white wines, the juice is separated from the skins right away. Red wines, however, are fermented with the skins to give them their rich color and full-bodied flavor. Once the juice is separated from the skins, it is transferred to fermentation tanks where yeast is added. Yeast is responsible for converting the sugars in the grape juice into alcohol. This process can take anywhere from a few days to a couple of weeks. The temperature at which the fermentation occurs affects the flavor of the wine. For white wines, cooler fermentation temperatures preserve the fresh, fruity flavors. For red wines, a warmer fermentation temperature helps develop the complex flavors and tannins that make red wines so rich. After fermentation, the wine is aged. Aging helps the wine develop its flavor and smooth out any harshness. Wine can be aged in various types of containers, such as stainless steel tanks or oak barrels. Oak barrels add flavors like vanilla, spice, and toast to the wine, while stainless steel helps retain the fruitiness and freshness of the wine. The length of time the wine spends aging depends on the type of wine and the winemaker's desired outcome. Some wines are ready to drink after only a few months, while others, especially reds, benefit from years of aging. Once the wine has matured, it is filtered to remove any remaining solids and then bottled. The bottling process is done carefully to preserve the wine's quality. Some wines, especially reds, may continue to improve in flavor after they are bottled, while others are best consumed sooner for their fresh, crisp taste. Once bottled, the wine is ready to be enjoyed by wine lovers around the world. Beer, another popular alcoholic drink, has a different production process. The basic ingredients for making beer are water, malted barley, hops, and yeast. The first step in making beer is the malting process. Barley is soaked in water, allowed to sprout, and then dried in a kiln to stop the sprouting. This process converts the starches in the barley into fermentable sugars, which is what the yeast will eventually turn into alcohol. After the barley has been malted, it is ground up into a coarse powder known as grist. Next comes the mashing process, where the grist is mixed with hot water to extract the sugars. This creates a thick, porridge-like mixture known as the mash. The temperature and time spent mashing influence the sweetness and mouthfeel of the final beer. After mashing, the mixture is drained and the remaining liquid, called wort, is separated from the solid grain husks. The wort is then boiled to sterilize it and to extract the flavors from the hops. Hops are added at various stages of the boiling process. Hops are flowers that add bitterness, flavor, and aroma to the beer. The timing and amount of hops used will determine whether the beer is more bitter or has a floral or fruity aroma. After boiling, the wort is cooled down to a temperature where yeast can be added. Once cooled, yeast is introduced to the wort to begin fermentation. The yeast consumes the sugars in the wort and turns them into alcohol and carbon dioxide. The fermentation process can take several days to weeks, depending on the type of beer being brewed. During fermentation, the beer takes on its final flavor profile and carbon dioxide is produced, which gives the beer its characteristic fizz. After fermentation, the beer is conditioned. Conditioning is the process of letting the beer rest so that the flavors can mature and the beer can become clearer. This is usually done at a lower temperature for a longer period. Some beers are also carbonated by adding more carbon dioxide to the beer during this phase. Finally, the beer is filtered to remove any remaining solids and then packaged into bottles, cans, or kegs. Some beers, like certain craft beers, are bottle conditioned, meaning that they continue to ferment in the bottle, which can result in unique flavors and textures. Once packaged, the beer is ready to be shipped out for consumers to enjoy. Whiskey, a spirit with a strong and distinct flavor, is made through a different set of processes. Whiskey is primarily made from grains, including barley, corn, rye, and wheat. The first step in whiskey production is mashing, where the grains are ground into a coarse flour. Water is then added, and the mixture is heated. This process allows the enzymes to break down the starches in the grains and turn them into sugars. Once the mash is prepared, it is transferred to fermentation tanks, where yeast is added. The yeast consumes the sugars in the mash, producing alcohol and carbon dioxide. This is similar to the fermentation process for beer, but the resulting product is much higher in alcohol content. After fermentation, the liquid is distilled to increase the alcohol concentration. Distillation is the process of heating the fermented mash to separate the alcohol from the water and other components. As the mixture is heated, the alcohol evaporates at a lower temperature than water, so it can be collected and condensed back into liquid form. This is done in a still, which is a special distillation device. The distillation process may be done multiple times, depending on the type of whiskey being made. The more times it is distilled, the purer and stronger the whiskey becomes. After distillation, the whiskey is transferred to oak barrels to age. The aging process is what gives whiskey its complex flavors and smoothness. The whiskey interacts with the wood, absorbing flavors from the oak, which can include notes of vanilla, caramel, and spices. The aging process can take anywhere from a few years to several decades, depending on the type of whiskey and the desired flavor profile. During aging, whiskey undergoes several changes. It gains color from the wood, and the harshness of the alcohol begins to mellow. The whiskey is periodically tasted by master blenders to determine when it has reached its peak flavor. After aging, the whiskey is filtered to remove any remaining solids and then diluted with water to reach the desired alcohol content. Finally, the whiskey is bottled and sealed. Depending on the type of whiskey, it may be enjoyed neat, on the rocks, or used in various cocktails. Whiskey drinkers enjoy a wide range of flavors, from the smoky and peaty taste of Scotch to the smoother, sweeter taste of bourbon. All three of these beverages, wine, beer, and whiskey, have fascinating production processes, with each step contributing to the flavor, texture, and character of the final product. From the vineyards to the breweries to the distilleries, skilled artisans work to craft beverages that are enjoyed around the world. Whether you prefer the crisp and refreshing taste of wine, the bold and hoppy flavors of beer, or the smooth and complex qualities of whiskey, understanding the process behind these drinks makes enjoying them even more rewarding.